May God be present in your life, leading and guiding, sometimes in new ways and, also old. May God always bring both truth of tradition, but also new things to you. How often have we heard or even said, because we've always done it that way? You all have them, family traditions, work traditions, church worship traditions. And soon they become a sense, if we don't do it this way, something's not right. Or maybe we're breaking some cosmic rule that our holy God might frown upon. Here's a simple example. How do you do Christmas? Do you open Christmas Eve or you wait till the morning? Do you worship at night, or is there a Christmas day? Or maybe you skip worship altogether. Or here's a silly example. A young woman who was newly married wanted to cook a ham for dinner. So she took the ham, cut off the ends, and put it in the pan and put it in the oven. Well, her mom called while she was doing this, and she asked, "Mom, why do we cut the ends off the ham before we cook it?" Her mom said, "I don't know. I do because I saw my mom do it." Well, the young lady called her grandma and asked her why. She said, "Well, the pan I had was too small for the ham, so I always had to cut the ends off." Whether it's a good tradition or a bad tradition, it is simply a custom or belief passed down from one generation to another, or from one church to another. You might laugh, I guess, probably because you know some of those personal and family traditions that have become truth, so to speak. So I can imagine Psalm 15 was kind of an entry into worship by the Jewish folk. Lord, who may dwell in your tabernacle? Who may abide on your holy hill? Those who lead a blameless life and do what is right, speak the truth from their heart. They don't slander with the tongue. They don't do evil to their friends. Now, is that about rules and regulations? Is it the traditions and the Pharisaical laws of the time? Like, how many steps can you take on the Sabbath before you call it work? Or is it a heart thing that holds the moving relationship between you and God? As I mentioned with the children, my mother always used to say, "Go wash your hands." Both sides of your hands. And then here's one I didn't mention. My mother always used to say, and I know you've heard this because it's stupid, but she said it, make sure you clean your plates because there are starving children in the world. Well, that's that. Okay, are they going to get the food? I don't think so. And then in church back in the 50s, when I grew up, there was no early communion teaching. So as children, we would sit for a long time, watch the adults going up to the altar for communion, and there was no blessing either. So all of this would come after confirmation, tradition. Was it needed to be kept? Well, it has changed. Necessary or moving away from what's in your heart to simply perform a ritual. So that's why the Pharisees talked to Jesus. Why do some, not all, some of the disciples don't wash their hands? There were 613 laws that the people were to follow to keep themselves with God. But it wasn't working. That's why Jesus said, you know what, you're doing this, but your lips, your heart are far from me. You abandon the commandment of God and hold the human tradition. Now I wonder, this is going to be interesting. Go back to that original illustration. I wonder if that young wife stopped cutting off the ends of the ham. Okay? Maybe not. What can it hurt? Can you imagine the Pharisees, the people, and even the disciples who had difficulty understanding? They're hearing this for the first time. You don't need to do it. It's the actions of the heart that make a difference. For example, go back to the Gospel of Matthew, where Jesus is speaking of the commandments, and he says, you have heard that it was said, you shall not murder. But I tell you, that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to you, brother or sister, you fool, And anyone who says that will be in danger. So therefore, if you're offering your gift at the altar, go and make amends with your brother or your sister, and then offer your gift. Not tradition, but from the heart. And then you come to Romans 14 and 15, where it says in part, welcome those who are weak in faith, but not for the purpose of quarreling over your opinions, your traditions. Some believe in eating anything, while the weak eat only vegetables. Those who eat must not despise those who abstain, and those who abstain must not pass judgment, for God is welcome to them. You know, like Tevyev on Fiddler on the Roof, traditions he sings. They help balance life. But what happens when change comes? Who should you marry? Can you be friends with somebody who's different than you? Traditions are easy if you believe that all you have to do is stay in line. We can be like the Pharisees if we strike a pose that says only this way and no other. Have you washed your hands yet? Have you followed tradition to get right with God? If so, where is Jesus for you? The good we do, the love, the sacrifices we offer, the things we give up for the sake of others, God can use it all. Every contact that we have with another human being, God can work through love with that other person. So, to me, today, up here, Jesus is saying, come and break bread with me, even if your hands are dirty. You and I sometimes forget that relationship is more important than rules and rituals and traditions. But the good news is God doesn't forget that. So here's where I end, and I hope it's a little different sense of Deuteronomy. Let's take care. Watch yourselves closely. And then make sure your children and your children's know the difference. Let's walk with Jesus, and you'll be willing to follow where he may lead, traditions or not. Amen.